Where did?
You never know when the nomination.
Okay, call the meeting of the Morrow County Clean Water Consortium to order. And I'd like to just start with introductions in the room. I'm Dave Sykes, Morrow County.
Matt Jensen, Managing Director, CWC, Morrow County Administrator.
Isabel Gonzalez.
Nick Cody, the consortium's grant writer.
Debbie Rady, Boardman Foods and Irrigan President.
Kevin Ince, Morrow County Finance Director.
Kelly Doherty, Morrow Commissioner. Tamara Mabott, Planning Director and member of the CWC. Lisa Middlestorff, Morrow.
Aaron, do you want to go ahead and, since you're in the room? ready to go?
Yeah, Aaron Palmquist, City of Irrigan, you have Ronan, in the waiting room.
Okay.
Aaron Pettigrew.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Okay, first item of business would be the minutes from the September 9 meeting. Have you had a chance to go over those? Everybody?
One question. Maybe. On the second page, the second paragraph, where it says Morrow County Board each contributed 60,000. And Columbia River Enterprise Zone 2 and 3 contributed 400,000 and 500,000 each. At the beginning of 2025 through distribution of CDC funds. What are CDC funds?
Community development.
What's the C? Community development
Those are not CREZ dollars.
through distribution of CDC.
What
is-
development?
Is that one fund out of a CREZ program?
No. It's
No,
not
so-
CREZ at all.
It's their community
It's
development.
community development as opposed to congressionally directed CDS dollars. CDC is probably not the right. Yeah,
Would it be just beginning? That didn't make sense to me, so I didn't know what CDC funds were.
Community Development Corporation is where that.
The money goes to that. Okay, thank you.
They're
Okay,
not all community development corporations. Irrigan's goes to Irrigan, Lexington's goes to Lexington, Iona's
True.
goes
Community
to
development.
Icabo, WICFED and BCDA.
Okay,
Isn't it, Lisa, so that everybody knows, isn't it like that where in an agreement, they would have enterprise zones, or at least somebody's coming in, Tamara, they have that opportunity to do community development as a applicant. They've just not got there to the CREZ agreement yet, but it's like free money. That's what it is. It's not CDS money. It's
But yeah,
this is CDC
That's not what-
funds. That just grammatically, and then I didn't know how the term CDC was used there, so if we're really eager for transparency. I consider myself
We need
sort of
to
an
spell it out.
insider, but I didn't know what that meant.
I'd have to look, but it's been used multiple times, I
Okay.
think, yeah.
I only saw it once here, so I mean, would it also be CREZ 2 and 3 contributed 400,000 and 500,000 each at the beginning of 2025 period? Does it need to say that it was via, as part of CDC funding? I don't know.
I don't even know if there was.
I don't think it was. Yeah,
I don't think it was
I
either.
agree.
Come on to
Let's,
think about that. I don't
let's
think it
strike the
was.
end of that sentence.
So leave it at the end of 2025.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
all
it
right,
was
sorry to
just
sound
regular.
picky, but people
No.
ask all of us, like, where's the funding and how does that work? And I'm not an insider on the CREZ stuff, so thanks for entertaining. If not that, I have no other comments and would entertain a motion unless other people.
Okay, do we hear a second?
Okay.
Been moved in second to approve the minutes with the one change. To strike through distribution of CDC. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Well, I guess we should put on the record, we do have a quorum. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks. That takes care of that. The first business item will be funding presentation, Bugatti Consulting. Matt, Nick?
Yes. Nick, I've got your set up right here.
Did you share it to the Zoom?
Yes.
This one's gonna be a lot faster. We'll get to some, just some actual action items and some grants that whether you guys wanna go after or loans you wanna go after and, start kind of digging into some actual details, now that we've set up a good background, kind of understanding where we're coming from and, what some of the different sources are, what some of the priorities are for the consortium. You can go to that next slide, Matt. So yeah, this meeting is really intended to prioritize some projects, get some next steps for things for me to be working on and percolating. And then ultimately down the road, integrate that with GSI and HDR and whatever technical teams this group puts together to move projects forward. So here, that next one, Matt. I really wanted to dig into both of the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant programs, and I got some not great news on both. And I'll go into the details of why I just don't think it's a great fit for these programs or these projects. So the housing rehab program was one we thought could be a fit for the domestic well rehabilitation. And that would be an eligible use, but there's this complicated process where so the idea is that a nonprofit has the funding, and then they have someone that works for them that's essentially a third-party inspector. So they go into the home and there's a worked out Section 8 inspection checklist. And you can't edit it, you can't change it, you can't make an argument that this thing should be more important than that thing. There are, so there's these pre-assigned priorities, it's A through M. And while you could kind of talk about the contamination issue as a way to maybe be more competitive with the application, if the inspector went into the house, and this could be any house in Morrow County that is income eligible for the program, they have to go down this list. And it starts with sanitary facilities, so your bathrooms, and then your food prep and your refuse disposal, space and security, thermal environment, illumination and electricity, structure and materials, and interior air quality. So for each one of those, there's half of a page of passing and failing, and the inspector is looking over each of these pieces of the house. And if any of those A through G's have fails, those are the things that have to be worked on before you get to the water supply. So it would kind of be a crapshoot whether there are bigger problems in each house, and also if the people who manage to get their applications in first for this even have domestic wells. You wouldn't really be able to limit it to that population. It would have to be the entire county, whoever is income qualified. And then for that residence, going down the priority list, you kind of have a set budget for each house. Someone who works for me, Judy, actually has done these inspections before, and she said her experience was that, she would go into a house and someone would say, well, this is the problem, I really want this to be fixed, and she would go through the checklist and there would be something else that would be a higher priority, and they wouldn't get the thing fixed that they wanted to get fixed. So so this one, unfortunately, I don't think is really going to work for the sort of thing we want to do here. So I think it's a great program. It could be great for people in Morrow County, but it's not going to target the domestic well issue in a way that, you might end up fixing a couple of them, but it would kind of almost be an accident if you had managed to find these houses that, A through G had no issues and you get to that domestic water supply. And there's not even really a good process in the inspection checklist for the type of testing that we would really need to do on some of these wells, knowing that, you gotta purge them before you test them, and kind of this whole methodology and process that's not in the HUD checklists.
Hmm.
So it's just sort of a mismatch for the targeted sort of work that we're trying to do here. Any questions about all that?
I have questions
Sure.
because CDBGs there's other projects that are funded with CBDG dollars other than housing rehab.
Mhm.
There's nothing else that would qualify.
We'll talk about that, we'll talk about like the
Public
public
works.
water system type of grants, which would be the public works
Thank
CDBGs. So this is CDBG housing rehab,
Okay,
and then there's also CDBG public works,
okay,
which would be for your public water systems.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that next.
this makes sense.
All right, so public water system extensions, also did a deep dive on this one. And this is where we had talked about the value of doing the income survey, since neither Boardman or Irrigan are income qualified. I thought a potential next step would be for the CWC to fund income surveys in these two communities. Which I think still could be helpful, probably more so in Irrigan than Boardman, and this is why. When you receive a block grant for final design or construction. And this happened just recently with a project we worked on in Elgin. They expect by the end of construction that your utility rates, whether it's water or sewer that you're working on, will meet or exceed the affordability rate. The affordability rate is, and it's per utility, 1.25% of the community's median household income divided by 12. So and I confirmed these numbers with Business Oregon. So Boardman would have to have water rates that average 65.90 by the end of construction of the block grant project in order to receive block grant funds. And they would have to have a plan in place and a resolution passed by council that shows the pathway to that. And I confirmed with Brandon and I talked to him because I looked over his water rates and they were $17 to $25, and I wanted to make sure that wasn't an error on my part. No, they're that low. And even with their new water rate study, you know, that it's not going to go very high. So they'd be looking at needing to raise rates $20 to $40 just to qualify for community development block grant for a public water grant. Irrigan is a little closer, but it's still pretty far out. You know, they're 44 to 53, and that's their in-town and out-of-town rates, and they would need to be 68.84. So that's tricky. Where we have these areas of higher median household incomes in the cities. Well, there is a chance you could do an income survey of the median household income. And the difference between the typical income survey you would do for block grant is you ask people to rank their income in a range. So they have about sometimes like a $5,000 range. So it's less invasive, whereas when you're asking for median household income, you need an exact number. And people are much more reticent to give that, you know, down to the $10, this is what I made last year, or this is what the household made last year. So there is technically a way that you could sort of challenge the median household income numbers. And if you're doing an income survey anyway, you can tailor that survey to hit both of those boxes. So maybe there's a scenario where Irrigan's median household income drops a little bit. But it would have to drop pretty substantially, and they would have to be looking at a project where they're likely going to tack on a bunch of debt. And then that gets them closer to that rate, but just for a grant, just to extend the, you know, water service to these new areas, the cities would have to be willing to raise the rates in the entire town by quite a bit just to get to and use the grant for these extensions.
Now, that's if the city was doing the CDBG?
Well, for the utilities, it really has to be the cities, I mean, because the county doesn't have a utility.
But if the county were to form one
Mhm.
or a
Like
special
the-
district,
Power City one.
Yeah, the city and the county would still be the only ones that are eligible to apply.
Mhm.
I think you could apply on behalf of a district, and then you would have to do a special survey of that district,
Mhm.
right? So we do the median household income survey of whatever this conglomeration of neighborhoods is. And then you run those numbers again.
Yeah, Aaron's got a question for
I got a
you.
question, I know you alluded to it, what would be the dollar amount they could get maximum process for a CDBG under a public works process, so they can know that?
2.5 million. So I mean, it's.
It's a
not
lot of
that-
work.
It's a lot of work. It's not that much money in the scheme of, you know, these potentially $10 to $30 million water projects. But it is the only 100% grant outside of earmarks. So any other time, you know, you've got federal and state earmarks and you've got block grants. And then every other option is going to be principal forgiveness. So it's a loan that comes with a little bit carved off as a grant. But ultimately, it's gonna be debt. That pushes you, you know, into the 5, 6, 7, $8 million range.
And USDA is 4.7%.
USDA is not great. And the revolving loan funds are like 2 to 2.5%, 30 years. Any questions about that?
Just also on the third diamond on the application needs affordability rate. So utility rates must meet 7,500 gallons. What does that mean?
So that's the standard. So, and even with Boardman and Irrigan, I think Irrigan, don't you guys give 10,000?
10,000 gallons.
So there's even some additional math to do of, you know, that's a $68 or $69 rate for 7,500 gallons, but they're giving 10,000 gallons. So we'd have to figure out kind of what the charge would be for 7,500
okay.
gallons.
So that rate of the 1.25 divided by 12, it has to incorporate 7,500 gallons.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
an additional kind of finagling you have to do in the back end to get it to match up kind of perfectly with their standard.
Okay.
So just kind of going over the application needs, you know, we'd have the city or the county, whoever would do a public hearing, work with the applicant. Pretty extensive application requirements. It'd be pretty tricky with a new district. And you'd have to get all the finances up and running, you know, a budget, an entity, all those sort of things before you could even kind of get through that application gate. Then you're choosing either a final design or construction project. So the way that I structure it most in Elgin and Sumter and the small communities where they say we can only afford the grant. We can't afford any loan. So the engineers and I work to develop essentially about a $400,000 to $500,000 final design project and then a follow-up $2 million construction project. Not a whole lot gets done. You end up with about 1.7 million to 2 of construction funds because you're spending quite a bit on final design. And then there's just all these administrative and legal and labor standards and environmental requirements. So block grant's a great way to leverage additional funds into a bigger project. You can't get a whole lot done just with block grant. And you can't apply for the block grant until you have all the other money for the project lined up. So if you want to sort of feed it into like a $10 million project, you need the $7.5 million already committed, and then you apply for the block grant.
Have you had success with this one?
Yeah, I've successfully written about 20 block grants for about $35 million in the last 10 years. Well, like at the end of September, we just submitted 3 applications and we'll find out in the beginning of December. So I mean, it's pretty quick once you actually put the application in, but we probably worked for 4 months on those applications and then for 3 months before that to develop the project feasibility documents and figure out exactly what the project is and how to line it out.
And no shutdown, no CO.
And then, yeah, this is federal money. So if there was a continuing resolution, there would just be less money in the state coffers, because every time they pass a CR, it's like a percentage of the last allocation. Some budgets don't even have block grant in it for next year, so We'll see if they pass a budget, if block grant is in it. The state folks are not optimistic. But it's a pretty big national program that everybody freaks out if they threaten to cut it, so it's usually a pretty hard push to keep it. So that's block grant, not great when you get into the details and start breaking down things like the affordability rate, especially for Boardman, where their rates are just so low. And they take that as a thing of pride, and they should. I mean, it's impressive. Any questions on this one? Okay. All right, so there is a loan opportunity. It's not great, but it is an opportunity. So we're gonna talk about it, and you guys can tell
We're
me.
full of great news tonight.
The government is shut down, unfortunately, so, but they got this one out. This one was one that, I think I kind of mentioned as it had closed in the spring. It reopened on the 1st of October. But this is the USDA Decentralized Water System Grant Program. We've talked about it before and has a lot of strings that make it maybe not the best fit. So the applicant has to be a private organization, has to be a nonprofit organization. And what it would do is it would take USDA grant funding, give it to a nonprofit, and then the nonprofit would be able to make 1% 20-year loans of up to $15,000 max to households that have a combined income of under $51,000. And then the nonprofit has to match 10% of the project. Although the Clean Water Consortium could be the one to kind of third-party fund that match, or any other outside entity could provide that funding. So this is one that's open right now. We'd obviously have to find a nonprofit and we'd have to line up match. But it's feasible for me to apply for this one if it's something you guys are interested in. So I thought this one was worth a bit of a discussion about what you guys think.
Questions, Nick?
So Nick, it's a 15,000 max loan. And if they have to combine income for their home, has to be less than 51,000 gross income, right?
Yep, under 51, it's 60%, I think I reversed that. It should be less than.
That's why I was asking.
Less than 60% of the state median household income.
So your arrow's wrong, but that's okay. I understand. Okay, and it's only for 15,000.
So, I'm not sure, just kind of on a feasibility level, when we're talking about deepening wells or rehabbing wells or upgrading, and maybe Ronan could provide some feedback, whether 15,000 is enough to do some of the things that might need to be done, whether it would be helpful. And then I think kind of an additional layer is, do combined households with under almost a $50,000 income, are they even going to be interested in a 20-year 1% loan? I mean, it's pretty substantial for, a low income household.
And are you sure this would cover a private property owner asset?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. That's what I looked into it.
Would it cover like, full house filtration system?
Full house filtration system. Maybe, and that's really what we have to dig into is like, for this one, I think, is what would some of the solutions potentially be? Are they all eligible for this program? Will it only be certain kinds of solutions? Does it have to sort of be the well and the well house and the pump and, sort of that system? Or is it, anything that's connected to this domestic well? But I wanted to start with, do you guys have a nonprofit in mind? If we don't even know of a nonprofit that could potentially be a collaborator, this is just kind of dead in its tracks.
And I don't know, we'd have to think about that. Obviously, Boardman has a nonprofit, Eregan does not. Unless we went to another nonprofit that could cover the entire county.
H2O has a nonprofit. And we also have,
And they have to be a 501(c)(3) right?
I think they can be some different forms of nonprofits, but they have to be private, can't be in any way public. And a nonprofit organization.
okay, BCDA, is that,
BCA would qualify, GEODC. I think would qualify.
Yeah, I think so.
Aren't they a government entity?
Yeah, they are, aren't they at 190?
Are they one? I thought they were
Yeah, not in 190.
just a nonprofit corporation.
Is there a limit on this one?
A limit as far as what?
How many?
I'd have to look
Yeah.
into I think it's a national program, so. They don't have a ton of money. I think it's only a couple $1,000,000 for the whole country. So,
So the nonprofit applies, they get a certain bucket of money, which then they can do the loans through.
yes, and then they're matching 10% of that with either their funds or a third party's funds.
What is 1% for 15,000? Right, a month or a year, or
Oh.
just to think about what that would cost a household,
So like
$150.
$150.
$150.
Yeah.
150 a month.
No, a year, 1% interest. Compounds over 20 years.
Yeah, so probably a little more than that, than 150.
Well, it starts off that much, but yeah.
20 years. And you said that, so if somebody got 15,000 hypothetically, if they got money, there would have to be 10% the nonprofit would have to kick in, is that what you said then?
Mhm. So
So,
it would be like 1,500 on every 15,000, so it would be like a loan of.
they gotta come up with that, not the borrower.
Correct,
So if you had 20 wells times 1,500, right?
Mhm.
Hypothetically. Not very many.
and
2 million you said they have, maybe this program?
that's a couple million through the whole program.
would 15,000 cover in the month?
No,
Not a new one.
I don't even
It's like
think there would
30.
be one, it's about 25 or 30.
I mean,
Yeah, you're looking between 20 and 30 on them.
But I know,
And to meet the nitrate protection issue that we have. I mean, it's not really cheap.
well, there's systems that are working in Boardman right now that are less than $8,000 for a filtration system for the whole house. That are, so there's other options besides just drilling a hole in the well.
And that's 8,000 for a whole house system?
Yeah.
And the state has signed off and approved that?
No,
I didn't think so.
And they're
Which
not
they said
approved
no.
for septic systems either, they're not so great, Bryce has one.
No.
For the filter for.
No, he has a whole house system,
Oh,
but it runs constantly and it uses a ton of
a
water.
ton of water, I bet, that's what I heard, yeah.
Well,
So,
and-
Camera, they do say that it's, homeowners and individually owned
Oh,
water
Okay,
systems are.
oh, nice, okay.
Question for Tamara, can you make a note, when we talk offline, I think that it was our other water meeting, the county health, person with, Green Utility that does all our septic.
Joe.
He's got something the state has been looking at and they're just spinning. They're not doing anything, but it would have to change some legislative stuff. He briefly mentioned to me there's something that you and I can talk and try to get him. I think we need to look at it for our region. I mean.
We've heard rumblings on it, advance notice, nothing we can really share at this point, but
I
yeah.
know, but I think we need to do something that I think is sort of, we need to look at that. Because we gotta crack the nut. It's gotta be smarter than bureaucrats making up stuff.
Yeah,
So the grant funds may be used to construct, refurbish, or service individually owned household water well or and decentralized wastewater systems. construct, refurbish, or service waterways.
The other thing for consideration is IRZ and Hermiston. Fred, if you met him, talked to him anyway. He's designed and patented a system for getting clean drinking water that's just using solar panels. And so it's another option for clean drinking water. It has nothing to do with septic or water or wells. You worth talking to him about it. Anyway, he said you go through the emergency planning department or state of emergency or something for the state of Oregon. I haven't further investigated any more than that, but he's already supplying these systems to places where they need water.
So I looked up the FAQ here. It says when ground well water contamination is documented, funds may also be used to complete work within the residence to address the contamination. So I would think that would be like a filtration system. But for the first option to kind of come out to be a loan, no, I think is kind of the question.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Nick?
All right, well, do you guys want to, I mean, just on this one, is it a no thanks for now? I mean, that's the vibe I'm getting, but I guess what would be a good process as these things come up, right? Here's an opportunity. Do you as a group want to make a no-go decision, right? On whether we want to look more into this, or do you know enough now that you feel like it's not the right time for it? I mean, this opportunity came up twice this year, so it's a dice roll of whether it'll come up again.
I think it is an opportunity, and I don't think that we should pass up an opportunity to talk about it. Because it is. It is an option
What happens
for
if,
funding certain households.
yeah, so what happens if we apply, and we don't use it? Does it just cost us money for
I'm
the
guessing it goes
application?
back.
Yeah, I mean, you're just, wasting the application grant
Wasting your
writing.
time.
I mean,
We're buying your time.
it's not a waste of my time. I mean, you pay me, so it is what it is.
Okay, so it's just your time to write the grant and,
Yeah, and your guys' time to coordinate with this nonprofit and the nonprofit's time, and if it's really something that you don't think is gonna be used, I would suggest not kind of, lighting your powder on fire quite
Yeah.
yet.
so the nonprofit would be in charge of administering these loans, making sure they're paid, is that correct? I mean, is that the nonprofit's responsibility
Yeah.
to put their thumb down if somebody doesn't make their payment on time?
Mhm.
And then they are also assuming the risk?
Well, USDA is kind of like an underwriter of risk in a way, right? Because it is a grant. So I'm sure I don't know exactly how the sort of financial obligations will break down, but the idea is it's a grant from USDA and it's a revolving loan fund, and these are 20-year loans, so it's gonna be a pretty long time period that USDA is looking at monitoring and documenting all this. You essentially are,
Yeah.
it's gotta be a nonprofit that also has some experience with loans and
Yeah,
debt
it's
and
just,
managing all that.
there's, you almost have a loan officer.
Well, GODC is, in 2014 changed from a 501(c)(4) to a C3, and they administer EDA revolving loan
Mhm.
fund, so. I mean, we're one of their partner organizations, so that's an option there. I would say based on that, and, let's not reinvent the wheel, and GODC does a lot of that kind of work. I would say, I'd like Lisa's idea, not take it off the table, but I don't think it'd be, my highest priority to seek that funding. It's good to keep that arrow in the quiver for now, particularly some of those outlying areas that we're identifying through the roadmap project. Where you might, it would be a real stretch to extend a public water system to some of those more remote areas.
So I think the kind of an alternatives for next steps are to just write this off and move on. And I hear we don't want to do that. There is at least some interest. Is the appropriate next step for maybe like Matt and I to meet with GEODC and just find out if they're even interested in this sort of a partnership and collaboration? Or to just go full bore. I mean, and because this is due in the beginning, it's like
6 weeks.
I
Yeah.
definitely think we should know if they're interested at all, because it'd be a long.
And Nick, what's the
Um,
grant cycle? Is it a time that they said they have $2 million a year? Then a fiscal year or?
No,
When
I
do they-
didn't expect it to come back open again already, because it just closed. I'm guessing maybe they didn't spend all their money, so they opened it up again, because it was just open in May. And it kind of just, I was just looking at it a month ago and it wasn't open and there was no indication it'd be open again, so. Federal funding is really anyone's guess. I mean, it may go away entirely. There may be something better next year. There may not be a government open for another 2 months. I don't know on that.
But if we were gonna try and get in on a certain spending cycle, you don't know if it's gonna come back the next year.
No, it's kind of a.
Take it when if you could.
These sort of experimental pilot programs, it's probably Congress carved off a couple $1 million. They want to see how it goes. And, USDA is gonna say whether it was effective or not, and then it's up to Congress to continue to refund some of these new programs. And when they're not even wanting to maybe fund block grants, I mean, this might be low on the priority list.
Just, the question was asked how much. Monthly payment would be $68.98. Total payment would be $16,556.20. So, $1,500 in interest over this 20 years.
Yeah, Aaron's got a question for you now.
Question for the committee, but Nick, help me on this. So it's kind of twofold. First one is, this one here has, you gotta do some LMI, some study or something, somebody does, GODC or somebody. Because you need that, correct?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of paperwork that the homeowner will need to take to the nonprofit to basically apply for this opportunity and then prove that they qualify with the income. It probably is like tax documents. I mean, it's a loan, so there's probably a decent chunk of underwriting that has to be done.
Nick, have you seen what the application is like?
I think I kind of scrolled through it and I was like, that's pretty big. That's a lot of documents. I mean, they've got the nonprofit's on the hook with the feds, right? If they give out this loan to somebody who wasn't qualified and they didn't document it, then they're in trouble. That's really where the risk is in giving the loan out to someone who wasn't qualified, and then they audit that and find out that this wasn't actually a qualified resident. So I mean, they've got to be pretty on top of things. They can't just let kind of anybody willy-nilly.
So maybe we should just park this as an opportunity in the future if. We feel like.
Have you worked with
Right.
GCODC lately, Nick, at all?
My employee used to be an employee of theirs.
Changed.
I think they just changed
Oh,
over.
good.
Tori Stennett is the interim and she's really.
I worked with Tori before down in Grant County.
Mhm. She was with Business Oregon and she was with Grant County Economic Development.
I
Right.
think we should ask them at least, and then we'd have at least that part done, so I would suggest that we at least ask Geo to see if they have any interest, and then we can go from there.
And they're also used to working with the private sector banks in
Mhm.
combination with the revolving loan fund, so it's typically a package. I mean, you would know that way better than I would.
Well, I just wonder how hard it's going to be to find households to qualify.
Especially when they're out there, if they're rural, then they've got ranch income, and we would have.
Well, even if we weren't to go
Even
for
if
this
it's a
cycle,
two-income family,
Um,
they don't qualify.
for Nick and I to reach out to a couple nonprofits, see if they'd be willing to do it for future.
Yeah,
I mean,
no-
it's another arrow in the quiver.
Yeah, no harm done, so yeah.
Cause I think there's gonna be more opportunities like this where it needs to be a nonprofit as the face of whoever's distributing this money. There's a couple different opportunities like this where you need that kind of partnership. So I think what I'm hearing is let's meet with them. Let's see if they're interested. at least GEODC, and then if there's any other regional groups. That might be qualified. There's not a whole lot of nonprofits that have loan officers though.
Do they still handle the Morrow County revolving loan, business opportunity loan?
Yes.
Yeah, they do
Okay.
that too.
I mean, not that this would apply, I just wondered how they're doing, if they're still doing that.
Well, they do handle it. We have not seen very little activity. And so this would be something that, if they were to be in charge, we want some assurances they'd be advocating for it, that if we publicize and get it going, that they'll be responsible and responsive to make sure we have a successful program.
Right.
And my thought too is like the consortium could even have a consultant to help the homeowners put the applications together or something like that. I mean, there could be some pretty good outreach to help people put all this together and to kind of catch it before it goes to the nonprofit, right? And filter some of the noise out, to help them be more effective.
Do we need a motion or do we just need direction?
Do you guys want?
I wouldn't mind a motion, just so it's formal.
Could be direction, okay,
That we allow Nick to pursue a nonprofit that would be willing to host this revolving loan opportunity.
Second.
moved and seconded. Did you want the consortium manager to be involved with that too, or just Nick?
Sure.
Of course. Well,
Yeah, I think
if he needs it, but
Yeah, no, just as
I'd appreciate it.
yeah,
I'll amend that and add Matt Jensen.
okay, then moved and seconded, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carried, unanimous.
Okay.
Okay, what's up next, Nick?
So now we're just gonna start talking about next steps, and where you guys want me to spend my time. What is the most valuable, I think the block grants are kind of on the back burner. The private wells, I think, are one of the trickier things where it's gonna take some more creative brain power of how we connect all these resources for these private well owners. So that would be, I think as I see it, the best next step for me is to focus on these private well funding pathways. Like this USDA one, if more things like that come up, to just write applications as they arise to try to create these partnerships, these collaborations where we've got at least the right people in the room and the right entities flagged for when these things do come up. We can move on them pretty quickly because sometimes they just pop up and you got 2 months to put it all together. So having some conversations up front, I think will be important. And then there's also, kind of what I was saying about the county could have, a consultant that works with people directly. There are also grant opportunities that, a nonprofit wouldn't apply for, the county wouldn't apply for, but individuals would apply directly to USDA. So or WRD in the case of the Water Well Abandonment Repair and Replacement Fund. So that's one where it has to be connected to dry or declining wells or wells impacted by wildfire. So it might take some creativity on the back end to write a narrative that kind of fits this well contamination in with these other categories. But that could be something where we could take sort of a sample group of people that are income qualified, identify them, and then say, hey, would you like to be a part of a pilot program? We're gonna, the consortium is gonna pay a consultant to work with you to put an application together directly to USDA or WRD and to try to, whatever the solution is for their well, try to get it done. And that's where Ronan comes in too, right? Because I don't know what they need done to their well.
Have you seen that in action with the consultant? Because what I've seen in some of my experiences, people get buried in paperwork and a bunch of them just throw up their hands and, I mean, they're trying to get it done and there's, so I mean, I think a consultant to help them with that would be a great idea. You know, it depends on what the paperwork looks like, I guess.
I think so too. I mean, it's just a lot to put on people, to do on their own, and I don't think it's gonna move very quickly or happen for a lot of people, if you just kind of give them an application packet and say, here you go, here's some money if you wanna go chase it. But to say, you know, hey, we haven't identified a great solution yet, but we're gonna sample and pilot some things here and there. We're gonna see how it works. You wanna be our guinea pigs to see how this might go, and we'll pay for someone to help you put it all together. I mean, to me, that's a pretty decent offer, I think some people would take.
How are we getting around the dry and declining wells or impacted by wildfire? How are we getting around that challenge?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, okay.
Declining.
Declining
Quality's
maybe,
Declining.
I mean,
depending on what that means.
yeah,
Senate Bill 1154
drought,
just
you know, I
authorized
mean-
that program again.
whether it's
So-
drought, whether it's looking at just, I mean, generally speaking, the groundwater is declining, right? Over a long enough period.
Well, the
Just
irrigant
take
area is
that
in a
last-
critical groundwater area, which is the quantity is declining.
Okay.
But Boardman is not.
Okay. I mean, that's another slice of it, right? Is trying to find these right geographic areas and the right landowners. So this would be another one where I don't think it's quite as clear as like the USDA opportunity, but if this is an idea that you guys are interested in, I could work with Matt to try to put together some sort of process, and then also work with WRD and kind of pitch them this creative take that doesn't really fit what the program is for. And then I also think that would be helpful if they just say no, and they say, we can't help you with this program. We take that rejection to our legislators, and we say, we're trying, but you guys have no programs for us that can really help with this. Please make one. Or change
Yeah.
the rules of these other programs to fit what we need it for.
I think that's really true, and I think we could build on that as a group of resourceful people. Cause I think most of the legislation and laws that I'm familiar with are based on programs for water supply, not water. Poor water quality, and when it does, and then it's a whole different set of regulatory agencies and agencies involved, and if it's a water quality problem, then they push either the local government or the landowners towards the local municipality. And with those outlier areas, that's just pretty unlikely that we'll get there. But at the next steering committee meeting for the roadmap project, we'll have a better idea of just how out far those local areas are. So anyway, didn't mean to digress too much, but I
No, it's
think you're
great.
exactly right, Nick, because the way Oregon is structured, at least the natural resource agencies I'm accustomed to working with, compartmentalize water quality and water quantity. And when it comes to quantity, we don't regulate the exempt well owners because they're exempt from the requirement to obtain water rate. And if they happen to be near a city or in an urban growth area, then OHA can get involved in DHS, et cetera, with the local municipality.
So I think kind of what my next steps would be for that one is to get in touch with WRD, try to massage this dry/declining well issue, and then identify some geographic areas. And then I would say if I can get it to a place where it looks feasible, like we could make it work, WRD's bought in, then I would come back to you guys and propose kind of this pilot program of, we figured it out what to write, we know where it goes, and then, you know, do you want to move forward? And then the consortium could help with identifying some of these households. I'm not sure how we go about that, and that's kind of the next step, right, is how do we do the outreach from this body to the actual people on the ground, fit them in this box and say, you know, if you're in this area and you make less than this amount of money, reach
Right,
out
yeah.
and we could maybe help you with your well through this program. And we've got a guy to help.
Well, Stephen in my office just finished a really, really robust mapping project. I'm excited for our use both in the office and for this group, but we were really helping DE2 that doesn't have a database of where on-site septic systems are located. So we, through a series of inquiries, figured it out. So we made an assumption that if there's a house, there's a well, a septic system. So we figured out, and our number came pretty close to the existing number of domestically exempt wells. And by the way, the build out of those existing parcels in the residential zone, we could increase it by 2.5 times. So we think we have issues. Don't mean to discourage, don't mean to discourage, but it's something to think about in the future, moving forward. We have about 900 in Morrow County alone. But I think Stephen we could help with that when we get to that point to say, well, here's the outlying areas. It's really pretty far-fetched to think one of our municipalities could extend a system or that we could create a water district. And that's where Ronan is going with the roadmap project.
Okay.
Is this for like 30 or 1,000? You know, what's the limit on the private well? Just for a well, it's not for septic.
My quick search here says declining is actually declining of the well, the water depth.
Like that
Mm.
well
So you
specifically.
have to go deeper because you can't.
Well, and there's
There's
not,
lots of water toward a dry well.
If we
Oh.
lift our last stringer pipe up, suck some air. Oh, look, it's declining. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I think they just added the wildfire stuff to that last year.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Post 2020.
Yeah, once they destroyed so many of the well houses and
Mhm. And it was funded. I don't know what till what level though. It's in.
it seemed like they ran out of the money quite quickly.
Is it typical for the
Chris-
county to like issue drought emergencies every year
We're in one.
right now?
Do we have an active one in Morrow County right now?
Yes.
So it also says the property, you know,
Wait,
is in an area impacted by drought. So I mean, I wanna talk with these folks, pick their brain, make them answer some hard questions, go look at definitions in OARs, spend a little time on it. To see, you know, if anybody else has managed to get creative. I find sometimes the grant people appreciate a little creative thinking. Of how to get around their rules that are too
I think
restrictive.
so, yeah.
Well,
I
if it's
think-
a legislative fix, we can work on that too.
Yeah, I know that Chris Coates, the region water master, is very eager to be helpful. Not just to the CWC, but for the whole nitrate issue.
I mean, maybe it's an additional pot of funds through this same program that is about quality concerns, and there's a list of benchmarks and
Mhm.
bad things, and if you hit one of these contaminants in your system at this level, you qualify. You know, that doesn't exist now, but it could.
Yeah, that's a really clever, I mean, make it a black and white standard.
Yeah,
And, you know, if it's over 25 parts per million and we know the on-site system doesn't work, then you may qualify. And I think it's a high priority. I know Regional Solutions, it's a pretty, you know, we can pick up the phone and they'll respond
and I
to.
think it's really the value of this body too, is, you know, we're filtering through so many opportunities and so many solutions,
Mhm.
and then to say none of these are a fit for what we really wanna do. We need a program like this. And I'm sure there's other parts of the state too that this could be useful here and there. So it's not just, you know, here where there's contamination in groundwater of some sort. So that's that one. I don't know that we needed a motion on this one. I'll just kind of email the folks and start poking around with the WRD, and then I'll come back to you guys if I get anywhere. Does that sound like a plan? Well,
Yeah.
We have a consensus.
I would be willing to be a resource, if that makes sense, but if not, that's okay too.
All right, so public systems, next steps. So, you know, this is talking mostly Oregon and Boardman and the role for the Clean Water Consortium to support, you know, Oregon and Boardman's projects. So I think both Irrigan and Boardman are working on the bigger picture of their water systems and analyzing that and, doing rate studies and all of that stuff. So they're, but it's a long process. So the consortium supporting earmark requests, grant applications, and funding requests that the cities might make with letters of support, while not a, super impactful thing, is important. And I think, seeing that consistent support for these projects from the region and through multiple entities is going to be important. The big issue with, the block grant funds is going to be the affordability rate. The consortium could still fund an income survey. I don't think it really makes sense in Boardman. It may make sense in Irrigan. I mean, Aaron can pipe up whether he thinks it would actually be helpful, for his efforts.
It seems like a lot of the things you're talking about, though, and particularly in the region that we're talking about, are requiring that information that you don't have, right? About what is the income of the people that need these wells and services. It's not necessarily the people living in the city in $300,000 homes. So that income survey of the areas being where the need is, seems like an important thing for you to have the ammunition or, answer the question. But
And you know what? In this instance, for kind of this use of the income survey, it'd be less, like, do individual houses meet and more does an area meet? And it would be the whole city of Irrigan plus some of these outlying areas where we wanna get service to. And they generally take about 6 to 9 months to do the survey. Portland State is a really good group. Their survey research lab does it. It usually costs about $10,000 to $20,000. They can do Spanish translations, and have, Spanish speakers out there to help with the survey. So, I mean, do you have
How
any feedback?
long did they, can't remember, because we had this new one. But how long the shelf life is once?
5 years.
5 years. So if one was completed, it's there for 5 years. I personally, I know it was a Lexington and Island Day one, the recent one. I think it was a Lexington Day one. It'll stay on the shelf for 5 years. 10 to 20,000 PSU is geared up to do all that. I think you can carve out areas that are in unincorporated area to get them, or wherever Nick says. I think it would be worth, that's my recommendation, because it's 6 to 9 months to do it, get somebody doing something, and it lasts for 5 years at the completion, not the start. And I think either way, you're gonna need it. It might help us on other stuff, right, Lisa?
Well, and Aaron, I guess the question for you would be, is it worth it to start that process now? Is it worth it to wait a year or 2 years so that you have to maximize that 5-year window?
I would probably wait until, going to 26. I wouldn't do it now, because you gotta look at, that's just me rolling the dice. Because you gotta see what's gonna be out there, not only state-wise, what you can push legislatively to get things to change, and also federally, what is going to be loosened up. Because right now, it doesn't look good, from any funding source. You're gonna have to have private lifters, or how you're gonna do stuff. I would kick the can out there, probably 6 months to a year before you started it.
Okay,
That's
summer,
my-
fall 26,
Huh?
summer, fall of 26.
That's just my thinking. What do you think, Lisa? Because it's gonna be tough.
I hate all this waiting. just
I do
want
too,
things
but
done.
I'm also realistic and as Nick pointed out, the government shut down, but if you go to a CR, you only get 75% of what was previous year. Well, if they go into the next fiscal year, it just goes down 75% of that, and it can keep ratcheting down. Have we been there before? Yes, we have, under the Clinton era. I can tell you that the budgets are bigger now, but let's be realistic, it's not gonna be an easy cake walk like it was. and we don't have the COVID dollars that inflated everything, it's gonna be tough. We gotta, that's just my recommendation, so yeah, I wouldn't start till the summer for them.
So what we could do now is, I could reach out to Debbie Elliott, who runs the Survey Research Lab, and just start having her work on a scope and a fee. Just and tell her, we don't wanna start right now, but just start putting it together, and then you guys can know how much it might cost. Put that into the plan for next year, and then she can just be ready to go. Whenever that time is that we wanna pull the trigger. Is that something you guys would be interested in?
I like,
We just have the two programs that require the survey, right?
Well, and that'll be another question, is whether we wanna do a full median household income survey or just a low to moderate income survey, cause you can do one or the other or both. If you do the median household income survey, it'll get you the low to moderate income, but if you do the low to moderate income, it won't necessarily get you the median household income. So that's some of the conversations I think it would be good to have with Debbie and just explain kind of the situation we're in. And then also at this point, we don't even really know what areas we want them to survey. And that's gonna be something that I think in a few months we'll have a better idea on, is, you know, how big of an area do we draw? You know, kind of this polygon around these outlying areas outside of Oregon to have them surveyed. And then Aaron will have to have a giant spreadsheet of every single address and their contact information of every single utility owner and all of these other people that are outside of the area. We have to get all their information too, so that PSU can make a giant database, and then they randomize it and select their sample. Right, so they take all that, they randomize it, and they pull out like 30–40%, and then that's who they survey. So there's a lot of steps before it happens, but I think it would be helpful to get started on it, on scoping it out at least.
So then, Kelly asked, can you get them, when you talk to PSU, of what it would be for cost and a timeline for an either or?
Mhm.
So you can see that, Kelly.
Yeah, so you're telling me that so why are some of these, we have to go into the city and take their median income, and now you're telling us that we can just go outside and draw a line around this area? Is that two different
No,
surveys?
He's still saying the city's included in that, it's just how big of the area you're gonna go around it.
So,
For unincorporated area.
so what you have to do for the income qualification for block grant, and it's more complicated when it's not just a city. So if it's just a city, like, and you're not incorporating areas outside of it, it's just whatever the utility service area is. So it's just everyone that's connected to the utility. But when you're talking about like Power City and Brownell over in the city of Umatilla, where they weren't a part of that service area, we had to define what that area would be. It's, you know, it's these 25 residences. For Brownell, it's these 35 residences, and then go interview all those people and then integrate that with the overall city. And then you get a new number for the city plus these other areas. But you can't use the block grant for any area that you didn't include in your box. So we want to kind of know where we're going before we draw the box.
Okay.
So we don't decide, well, we wanted to be northeast of here on these tax lots, but we didn't survey them.
Okay.
And I just don't see how this block grant would work for Boardman at all.
I don't think so either, and that, I wish Brandon was here, but, that was kind of his
If you have
take
to
on it.
count the city, but you said something about a special district that wouldn't have to count the city, right?
Mhm.
That would be the only way possible.
I think so for them.
And what the genesis of that would be is, they would not be customers of the city. They'd be customers of the special district. We're purchasing water from the city, but we are not a ratepayer, based on that. So that's a workable around that you can do on that. But then you've got a much smaller population, which means you've got to have more responses from that specific population and community. So it pros and cons.
How much money? 2.5 million.
For 2.5 million, which for something like, Wagon Wheel or, even West Glen could be very impactful. But, it's a lot of work, and you gotta you gotta get a lot of responses back. I went door to door on these and it's amazing how many people, especially where, a lot of them say it has to be exact amount. If we can't do the ranges, that even drops probably by about 50% people willingness to go through. And while I've enjoyed my 2 opportunities of going door to door in West Glen, it's amazing the reticence people have on trusting government and that with just everything that's going through, whether in West Glen or just in the political community that we enjoy in this nation right now.
You can't anonymously get this information from the state,
It-
taxes.
You have to fill out an actual form.
The anonymous information is what the census has, and that says they're not eligible, right? So what happens with Portland State is they have something that ties, addresses to income levels, but it's behind a confidentiality thing. We will never see that, only they and their staff see that, and then they spit out the, anonymous results, right, of just the whole area. And they tell you this was the percentage, that it
Cause
resulted
people
in.
could just lie.
Yeah, they totally can. Yep. Oh, and they can also,
I mean,
the surveyors can also ask to see your tax return too. I mean, it's
They-
kinda, yeah, if you say, well, I don't know what my adjusted gross income is, you say, well, go find this form and look
give
at
me your
this
pay
line,
stub or.
tell me, so.
And they get really excited to show you tax.
Yeah, when they get really excited, yeah.
Yeah.
But these grants, you could accept whatever's given to these people at face value in the survey, not with any verification.
Well, Portland State's one that verifies it to some level. And their surveys. So then I think just kind of the other bottom line on the public systems is we just continue to work with GSI and HDR, as they push all this further. And we get new information, we just continue to integrate that as it comes up. So then I have just some tasks for you guys. I think really one of the big things is just lobbying our federal and state legislators. And I think this is the body to really make some noise with those folks. If it would be helpful, we can, in Q1 of next year, we're gonna get into the state capital requests and the congressional requests. We can start to put together some projects, what's the next thing we're gonna ask for money for? I think every year we should be asking for money for something. Cause really the only way we're gonna get to $25-30 million is getting a couple $1 million every year. Cause you're not gonna drop all that on us at once, I doubt. So if we're able to phase it, especially with water pipes, it's pretty easy to phase it. It's frustrating, but you just lay more pipes in the ground as you get more money and you go down the road. And that's easier for an extension. It's harder for a new system because there's gonna be some critical mass of money that you need to get the supply up, get the storage up, supply enough people to pay for all that. So that's another complicated factor with that.
Could you give us an example? You spoke about lobbying. Yeah, could you get a couple of examples of what that might look like?
Sure, there's lobbying for specific earmarks, so that would be a project by project thing.
Yeah, I mean,
where-
from who and who would do this lobbying, I guess.
So I personally think just a team of the technical experts, myself and you guys. You can hire lobbyists, but I think the message is the strongest from the leaders in the region. And that's my experience working with the legislators. They get the forms from me, but they don't care what I have to say. They don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you guys. And if I can help sort of sharpen your arrow to point at just the thing, like, hey, we need this rule changed, this sub rule changed of this program. I think that's where you could maybe start to see some effectiveness, is really nailing this. Hey, we love this program, but it doesn't fit what we need. We need it to do this. Or could you make this program do what we need? Or could you make a new program do what we need? And at least show that, this group is exhausting every option to get the state and the feds to help with this situation. Okay.
You're the best one to do that because you interface so much with would you be able to give us those we make a short list of those type of things, and then this board might be able to figure out where to do with them from them. Who to do the actual, you know,
Yeah, I think so, putting together, and that's kind of the idea is, just some little one pagers on, hey, this is one program, this could be a change, here's our projects, here's the, the consortium's next priority projects for West Glen, for Irrigan, for these domestic well users, right? And just every year, we're throwing something at them, and they're either saying yes, and we get more money, or they're saying no, and we ask them again the next year for the same thing. So that's kind of my plan, is to give you the oil to be the squeaky wheel. And then you guys just be the squeaky wheels.
And, making sure we're at any, traveling road, stops that the legislatures have. I mean, they put a lot of emphasis on that. They put a lot of weight in going and visiting them in Salem, but for some reason, it seems like they really like it when you come out to their little roadshow stops and get involved in those. And so that's something that I just picked up from this last legislative, is just getting in front of them and having handouts like that would be keen, something that tells a story very quickly and shows what we're aiming to do would go a long way.
yeah, I agree with that, because we know the area, and you know the state better than us, so.
Is there any advantage to having a lobbyist?
We have state and federal lobbyists, and
I know we do, but
we've been very successful doing that.
so
And
does this board need to do that, because we shouldn't be using courts?
Well,
Necessarily.
yeah, well, no, I would hope that our port lobbyists would be very helpful in this
Yes,
process, for sure.
but I mean, do we specifically need to separate ourselves from, because,
Or add this project to their portfolio. if it
yeah,
passes.
so.
Have a separate contract.
Yeah.
The ones that we have are out there looking, I mean, they're well aware of this issue.
Right,
Federal's been working for, many years with EPA. And setting up meetings with congressional staff, and states doing that as well, so, yeah.
but as a board member, we should probably have our own contract.
I don't know that we can afford that,
Okay.
honestly.
That'll be part of the discussion on DE and F.
It's ongoing.
I'm almost done here, and I've got 4 things to do already, so we're, and I'll kind of overview what my next steps are gonna be. Matt and I are gonna meet with GEODC and try to set up a nonprofit to collaborate with, if it's not them, on some future revolving loan or grant opportunities for low-income folks. I'm gonna reach out to WRD and really dig into the idea of the dry and declining wells. And then if I can get a good definition figured out that could fit us, work with maybe Tamara and Ronan and figure out some geographic areas where this would be a good fit. I'll reach out to Portland State and we'll start getting an income survey scoped out and get an idea of maybe a range of fees depending on some different factors, and whether it's the median household or the low to moderate income survey for summer, fall of 26. And then I'll start to put together some of my ideas for some lobbying packets. That'll probably be after I hit these things and mull on some of these a little more. Especially if the WRD one doesn't fit, I think that's a low hanging fruit for us to say, hey, this is a great program that's 90% there for what we need, but we need this one little thing changed. And then hopefully, Ronan can also help in the cities, hi Raymond, sort of figure out how this group could support the cities and what they're doing and their efforts, for next phases, to just keep it moving, keep the money rolling in, keep the requests coming. So at least we can say we asked, right? And tried.
I like that myself, just always be there, drip, drip.
So that's it. We made it through 4.5 hours of PowerPoints from me.
Okay, any further questions or discussion with Nick? Okay, next up is a meeting scheduling. That was Valerie, but Matt, you gonna take that?
Yes, Valerie she also supports the wolf deprivation, committee, and that's where she's at tonight, so we're, splitting and conquering. So she did a survey as requested by the board, at last meeting, sent it out to all the, advisory committee and board members, and she put an Excel graph on there. We had 6 respondents saying 4 o'clock. We had 1 anytime. And so the survey from this shows that most people would be okay with meeting at an earlier time from the respondents. So 9 to 1 would go 4 p.m. or earlier. And so we wanted to report that. We held this meeting at 6 because there's no final determination in the last meeting, so we wanted to do the reports with that. If the board would like to move it forward to an earlier time, it seems like it would be supported by those who attend. So.
I think the advisory people should weigh in on this because myself, I don't know about you guys, I mean, we go to a lot of meetings, you know, us people, so I think the advisory people that's my thought. What do you think? Bill?
I'm thinking 5.
Tom?
Because people are still working, you know, trying to get things done. If somebody did want to come, at least have a comment or be on Zoom or something, many people can't do it until after 5, so 6 seems too late, but,
How many advisory people we've been getting?
I was the only one that put any time, you know, my job is very flexible and very supportive of me being at things and meetings, so if I need to leave work a little bit early, then support of that.
but we're the only ones here and we
Yeah,
have
we had,
supportive business.
Some people on Zoom tonight.
We do.
Barb is on Zoom, yeah.
And Barb said, I think at last meeting, she said, probably not the bet, but she could make it work. Might want to unshare that, see what she said, and then
Okay,
please.
what advisory members we got on that?
Barb Phillips,
Mike Lees,
Mike Lees,
who else is there?
Caleb.
yeah, Caleb's with ORA.
Matt, could you call on them and ask them for their comments? since
Yeah,
you have
Barb,
those?
are you able to unmute just to chime in on meeting time? Oh, let me stop the share, sorry, I forgot. What? Okay. So share. I'm not sharing. Mike, can you unmute and would you like to chime in on meeting time?
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible. I mean, as long as the meeting gets on my calendar, I can plan around occurrences. So whatever
Okay.
you
Mike, can I ask you a quick question?
sure.
What's a good lead time for you to make sure you can get it on your calendar?
2 weeks would be best.
Okay. And Barbie there?
I have another standing meeting every Tuesday at 4. So I couldn't do it on Tuesdays at 4. But
That's our general meeting days, Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? Second Tuesday? Before the board meetings? First Tuesday, second Tuesday is where we discuss, right? I think that's right.
That's not what today is.
I know because we changed it.
We
Changed it for the meeting and because of the city meeting. Which didn't make much sense because it's. Oh, we can get in on that one.
There we go, yeah. That's all that we're getting an answer for. right now.
Well, what's the pleasure of the board?
You've heard it from me. I think we might get more people to come to a 4 o'clock meeting than to a 6. I know Zaida works at the school. She's out of that building by 3:45 or 4 o'clock. So I think 4 o'clock might work for her better than when she's probably home making dinner for her family.
Going home and trying to leave again.
And you know, my opinion is if we're gonna have a public meeting for the public needs to be off work and. and
But
have
we're
time
not
to get-
getting a lot of public coming. So maybe we should try something.
Opportunity
different.
still has to be there, whether they come or they don't.
My comment would be that you guys need to make the decision, advisory committee members or what? Advisory. And if you need information, then you reach for them, but.
They're supposed to be our public input.
Well, and I
mean,
could
I'm
do
not-
a
I'll be
different
here.
day than Tuesday as well, because I'm missing another meeting because of this meeting too.
Yeah, and would Thursdays work better?
They're all bad, man.
I
As I say, even for working people, we fill up our schedule and the guy on the phone said, I didn't know when this meeting was until I think I heard Kelly say something about it in another meeting, so. It's really important that we get it on the calendar. The calendar invites are great because
Okay.
we, you know, everybody's gonna try to book around it, but.
Well, just let you know, the next meeting, the second Tuesday is Veterans Day. So, county's off on that day, but, I'd be willing to come, but if we wanted to change the date and the time, that might be a good one to start on, whether it's November 13th, which would be a Thursday at 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm here whatever time, so.
Well, do you want to give 4 o'clock and see if the same number of advisors show up? And if we lose them all, we go back to 6. Want to try that? Debbie, how'd you say, you said 4 of them
On Thursday,
on Thursday?
it's not Tuesdays.
And
Tuesday, every week I have a meeting at 4.
And we didn't get Barb, right?
No,
So we didn't-
Pushing to be done by 4, but she was making.
We didn't query the advisory committee members, only the 4 of us.
no, there was 9, there was 10 votes. It doesn't have a breakdown of who it was,
Okay, that's fair.
but there was 6 votes for 4 PM, 1 for any time,
Mhm.
and 2 at 4 PM or earlier,
Mhm.
and 1 at 6 PM.
Mhm.
So there was 10 votes. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how
There's-
that breakdown was.
There's
And
a
I-
story right there.
I don't think
Yeah.
about it.
What time does Lamb get off or the other plant? Do they know their schedule? Ours gets off at 5, but half the crew gets off at 3, but it's.
Well, entertain a motion if you wanna give it a shot here to change it to 4 and on Thursday.
We can try it.
Sure.
Did you make that?
I will make a motion that we have our next meeting on November 13th at 4 PM.
Is it gonna be just this, are we just setting meetings one at a time? I mean, not that I have anything. against
Well, we
it.
have to change next month from the Tuesday holiday.
Sure. So we'll just make it, this time will be Thursday. At 4 is your motion.
Okay.
Okay. Is it here's second? I'll second it. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye,
Nay.
okay. 3-2, 3-1, or,
Did you vote, Lisa?
Yes, I made the motion. I voted, of course.
well,
We didn't hear you.
sometimes it, for the sake of discussion, I heard that before. Okay, so it passed.
Okay, we'll set that out. We'll send out the email invites. Get that scheduled on Outlook, so people have it on their calendars.
Okay, next up is C project update, County's Westland Community Water Feasibility Study.
It wanted to provide the consortium copies of the feasibility study reports that were prepared in conjunction with the Business Oregon grant that was given to the county. We have the reports from Meyer for water feasibility as they go through the different items. A lot of these points have been used in the West Glen outreach discussions as we've gone through. We also have the wastewater collection service that's here as well. I'm not going to go into the details too much of them, just wanted to make it available to you. We will be posting this on the CWC website on the county's site, just to make sure it's available. It does go through the options of connecting the city of Boardman community well and filter option and home treatment options on what the basic feasibility of it is. And so we are getting that point that we're completing that side of the project. And with that, our next meeting, our final community outreach meeting is tomorrow at the Sage Center at 6 p.m. We've myself and Rev with our consultant went door to door along with Commissioner Peterson last week and made invites. A lot of good word of mouth, strong opinions both ways on how things are going. And so we're looking to have a good show up again. We had a great show up with the second one with West Glen United coming. We hope they show up again. We've got some final information, and mainly the big message at this is while we're wrapping up this initial project, there's still more to come. There's still more discussions as we work with this and get community buy-in. And we do have an FAQ that'll be given. We do have copies of this feasibility study only in English that will be provided there. And so we look forward to having a good meeting. It will be structured a little bit differently. The one at the library at Sam Boardman was a little bit, well, we had a lot of people from West Glen United coming, so we just weren't prepared. So at the Sage Center, we'll have a large area, we'll have the data walk, we'll have questions come up through the microphones. We are holding the meeting in Spanish, so English speakers get the translation trick. And so we'll be going on that because there's just, at Sam Boardman, we ran out of the translator devices. And so we're hoping to, provide equal opportunity in this way. So we're excited about that. We are doing an informal vote or survey at the end of the meeting. Everybody who lives in West Glen will be given a vote as far as what they're looking at, non-binding, but it's just something to gauge the temperature as we go through and take care of it, those kind of opportunities and see where we're going at after these 3 meetings. And so that's kind of the project update on that. They're distributed a copy of the FAQ that we have. We will have copies both in English and Spanish at the meeting. And so that'll help out as well, hopefully. So that's where the county's feasibility study is with the West Glen community. And just see if there's any questions before we jump to the next item.
And this is on the website.
It will be. It's not yet.
How does the translation work with Zoom?
We haven't had it on Zoom. We haven't been recording the meetings via Zoom. And so we don't have an outlet like that.
Okay.
So, so we haven't taken on that challenge.
But it does work easy.
It does
Doesn't
what?
it doesn't always translate so well, they say, but it's easy to just press the button and you do Zoom.
Mhm. Yeah.
But the meeting's not on Zoom
No.
at all. Okay.
Is this ever gonna be published in Spanish?
This report. That's a good question. I could see what our translators could look to do on it. It might be something I could reach out to Willamette, partners and see if they could help out with that. But I can look into that. I'll let you know at the next meeting.
It's tomorrow night at 6.
Yes.
And is anyone welcome to attend, or just if you live in West Glen?
We don't turn you away. We specifically invited the West Glen and Paul Smith residents because those are the impacted by the targeted project. But we've had, I mean, Karen came to the last one and sat through, and so we don't turn anybody away.
Is the meeting just about those projects, or is there alternate, I brought up filters, I brought up solar stuff or whatever. Is there other things being looked at when you're talking to them, or is it just about the city water?
So initially, we talked about the 4 different options that are in this feasibility report. We talked about digging deeper wells, whole house filters, as well as a community based system and the connection to the city. And so those were the kind of 4 options we went through, kind of gauge the different levels of feasibility for that. For the bang for the buck, connecting to the city seems to make sense right there. The community and the residents have reservations on that. And some of them have longstanding reservations, anything from trust to not liking what the city water's like. So, sorry about that, Brandon, but, so there's just challenges and just the fact that they're like, just fix the aquifer. Some of them, others are like, well, we'd rather just have our wells run clean. But we realize for the next while, connecting to the city is probably the best and easiest answer. And so we have a whole collection of responses on that. We're really looking at it. And so the feasibility study looked at that. They did rule out deepening wells because it's not a sure thing. Whole house filters, partly because of the state doesn't have them certified and they're not, it's pretty particularly cost to impact. Some of these are run pretty expensive to get the ones that are supposed to do the trick. So.
Well, it's talking about $30,000 to put deepen a well, and it may or may not help. And that people are doing it today, have clean drinking water for $8,000. I mean, and have been for years. People have been using it. It's just like just one person's tried it. This is like the thing that has been going on, so.
Yeah, and part of it is, I mean, we have a public water system right next door, more or less. So for this, it works. For other communities, it doesn't work. It'll get way too cost prohibitive to do a public water system.
So that's, I just wondered what you were, what maybe.
I wanna go back to just for a second, go back to the translation. I think we need to take a look at artificial intelligence. Now, I took some of these documents and just for the heck of it, and I ran it through an AI program to translate.
Mhm.
And I go, okay, well, I'm not a speaker and I don't know anybody, but then I took it and I ran it back through on a different AI to
Mhm.
translate back to English. It came pretty close. I mean, these AI programs are improving all the
Yeah.
time. So I really would hope that, probably a human person is what we're used to and everything, but I would like to, or either that or just run it through one of them and give it to somebody, a translator, and say, okay, mark this thing up, tell me, how it did,
Yeah. Happy to try that, especially with the engineering report. With the FAQ, we've already got it in Spanish.
Mhm.
Michaela's
Well, then-
translated, went through.
Well, it could be for anything moving forward too, so, I mean, you could, yeah.
I just, and you are correct, AI is getting better. I just have that fear about 3 years ago, which was really fun. You take a song, run it through, translate it, and then run it back and woo.
Oh,
But I know it's getting much better.
back then too, and I said, no,
Yeah,
because in 3 years, it is so different in this environment. I mean, it's changed so much.
definitely.
But, and that's why I didn't even trust it this time,
Mhm.
I ran it through and I thought, well, I wonder what it would do if you went backwards on it, and
Yeah.
it was surprisingly that, on a different, client, a different AI program.
Excellent.
Anyway,
Okay.
I think we should give it a try.
what's that?
I think we should give it a try.
Yeah.
As long as you got a human who speaks both languages that reads what it spat out, I think
Yeah.
it's good, but it could save. a
I
couple
have
hours.
several in my family.
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
Are you using it in your business?
Yeah.
Who do you use?
I was using ChatGPT, but it got really bad in the last 2 or 3 months, so. They're really hit or miss. They tweak one little thing in the model and it all kind of blows up sometimes,
Yeah.
so.
The way I did it is, I don't know, I've tried about 4 of them. Claude, you've heard of that one? Okay, they take longer documents, you can have to put in more words. So I ran it through in Claude first, and then, of course, Copilot is Microsoft's. But they take like 8,000 characters, so I took a portion of it and I didn't run the entire thing, I took a portion of it. Because the county hasn't upgraded our system yet to Copilot Pro.
Yeah.
I've been logging
gonna
in
get
IT to do that, and they go, no, we haven't done it so far. Anyway, so I don't know, I think it's just something we ought to mess around with to play with. And, I'd be willing to do it if anybody wants to, but I do think we ought to find one that works. Take the limits of the number of characters and run it through and have a native speaker look at it. And then if that works, if it's looking good, maybe do it several times, then either the county or the consortium invest, because you're gonna have to go with a pro version. The free version isn't gonna handle everything. So,
And
anyway.
I think we have like 2 or 3 different dialects of Spanish in our plant. That don't necessarily read and write the same as the others, so I was surprised how.
Well, I got a question for you on that. Deb. On the speaking, and you might be able to answer this too. You don't run into that, right? I mean, a person has a
No, they can't
dialect,
understand each other.
huh?
They can't understand each other.
Okay, so you would run into it even if you had a verbal.
Yeah,
So writing isn't unique to say that there's
Right.
different dialect. Any way you try.
yeah, I'm not trying to say you gotta make 12 different dialects, I'm just telling you that. There are
But if
people
you're look-
living here that don't understand each other in
Right.
Spanish, so you can't just say Spanish. It used to
Well,
That'll fix it.
be, yeah.
okay.
But you start, that's the majority do speak, what you're talking about, the translation in Spanish, but I'm still, there's
Right.
something to consider.
Consideration of consideration of managing director job description.
Nope, next steps
Oh,
for Westline,
do we-
sorry.
Okay, next steps for Westlawn. Okay.
So the reason why I wanted to do this follow-up with the project update is, as we're going through, the county had the feasibility study, but the monies that we have available now are under the consortium's direction. And so the next steps with West Lynn is, pretty critical. We need to still do some outreach and some engagement with citizens on small groups. We've had these large groups, we still need to have some of those meetings, but to a T, people are like asking, is this the last we're gonna hear from you? And we have reported, no, this is going to be an ongoing dialogue. The reason why I want to bring this up is I would like to propose engaging with some of our advisory committee members who would like to participate in one-off meetings with West Glen community members, which we're gonna ask for tomorrow. People who'd be interested to come in and just have a frank discussions about some of the solutions they're looking at, some of the challenges and situations in West Glen. I would think of, I would hopefully about 3 to 4 of our advisory committees to meet and have a sit-down meeting with anywhere from five to 10 West Glen community members to have those discussions and work through that. I know Anna Maria's very engaged and has been for this. I'm sure she'd like to be interested. I don't know if Isabel, if you'd like to, and just have some good discussions with the residents one-on-one. This would help us build and kind of go through some details. These large community members, community meetings are great, but really and truly, it's going through door to door that's been really impactful, where they can feel like they can ask their questions and be engaged. And so that's what I'd just like to ask the board, to kind of authorize us to do that as we come through, and then the advisory committee to give a few recommendations on next steps after those meetings. And so that's what I'd like to propose and see if you have any direction in that. And if the advisory committees, I'm looking at you as well, along with others. I mean, I'd love Karen to be involved in it if you'd like to. Particularly, you know, since we're looking at West Glen, you know, people from that Boardman area, so.
So can I put Brandon on the spot for a minute?
Sure.
Brandon, could you reach out to your advisory board members and invite them to this meeting tomorrow night and encourage them to participate in this group?
Yep.
And you might,
To the West Glen.
I think you might get one that says, I'm not going to.
Yep, I can reach out
Okay,
to the 6 o'clock meeting.
yes,
Right.
then the next Clean Water Consortium meeting is November 13 at 4 p.m.
So we should do the same thing with Oregon.
Mhm.
And we should do the same thing with Oregon,
But we don't have a project in there right now.
right?
But
It would be to come to the meeting, so
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
kinda what I
see what you meant. Okay, right.
Yeah.
What meeting?
these meetings. No, your advisory committee.
She's on. Is she?
You need
well,
to,
you're supposed to
you
have
need to
four.
go find some more friends, Erin.
Debbie's here.
Okay, we have two.
I don't think who else is going to attend that list before that. Time changes fast.
So, Chair, in response to Matt, I think to the extent the advisory committee members are willing to work with you, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a great idea, especially if they're a trusted local face and communicate.
And I think, like you said, sometimes people are more willing to speak one-on-one
Mhm.
instead of a large group.
Mhm.
I mean, even as we told them, there's gonna be a microphone, you have to stand in line, you have to sign up for it. I mean, there was a couple voices that kind of wanted to sit and take control of the last meeting, and they're like, we didn't like that. We wanted more people to share, and so we hear that.
Yeah. I guess I hope that our advisory board committee or people actually have been aware of what's actually transpired, because I don't think they've been to enough meetings to even know what to communicate.
Mhm.
I mean, what are you going to share with those people? What are we gonna teach the advisory committee that hasn't been here? I mean, we're gonna have to educate them on this whole
Yeah.
sheet for one thing. And knowing the facts and figures, and that's gonna be
Well-
hard when they haven't been here.
You're right, and giving them that information and maybe having a meeting with them before, not to coach them up in things, but this is really just to open up a dialogue, you know? What are your concerns? Here's the advisory committee, and it's a way to engage the advisory committee that, you know, at times can feel like they don't have a role in this, that they really are our community outreach.
And I think not so
our-
much to push something on them, that we're giving them these facts and pushing what we want on them, but more to get information from them about what it is that they want.
And
How
then
do
if
they
you
know what
wouldn't-
they want if they don't have the facts?
No, as far as them being an outreach for individuals of West.
I understand that, so if I'm a West Bend person and I come to a meeting with someone and I say, what's the cost? What's the cost to me? What's going to be provided? What answers do we have to give I mean, we can have a dialogue,
Mhm.
but without answers, we're,
Well, there'd be some
Oh.
back and forth, like,
Yeah.
if Matt contacted Isabella's been, I think.
She's been
at-
here.
at all of
yes.
these, she would know, and if there's
And
another.
they are getting the packet. I just looked, they're getting the packet, so they could read the packet.
So it's gonna take some one-on-one time for Matt to reach out to them and say, hey, would you be willing to meet? And here's a packet of information. Do you have any questions? And if they meet and they come back, I mean, it's just one more layer and opportunity to have a one-on-one discussion.
Yeah, if you have the advisory committee people and we have 4 options and they can't explain those options or.
Then they
Go ahead.
circle back with Matt and, yeah, I don't think it's a one and done. I think it's an iterative process. Again, just one more opportunity to knock on that communication.
And what I'm thinking is, a less formal meeting than the community meetings, but also something where,
Mhm.
okay, we'd like 10 of you to come, we're gonna have 4 of our advisories. Please tell us, and so the advisory committee can hear, can ask questions of the community members and bring it back to the
Mhm.
board and engage. So it's not necessarily sending Isabel out
Mhm.
to go to Westland door to door. It's more of, let's have a smaller cottage meeting rather than the large community meeting and just talk. You know, what are the concerns? Door to door, I met one couple, they're like, run the water, but you stop it at the curb. We don't want, or the road. They didn't say the curb, there's no curb. But and that's fine. That's, they're like, I'm okay with it, but we're not gonna take it. That's good.
I'll just say, I work with a lot of small communities and city councils, and it's kind of a similar role of the advisory committee of not everyone on the council reads the whole packet, and they're on the council. And sometimes, that's fairly common, and not every person is engaged with everything. But what I've found is, as much as you can distill the information, give them a highlight sheet. What are the things that they really care about? Not everyone cares about all of the exact same things, and they could hear it 10 times and it's not gonna go in their brain. So everyone's got a different angle they're taking to it. Not everyone's gonna read through the entire packet, and even if they do, they might not understand it. I've had councils that said, well, you gave me a great 4-page overview of all these projects. Could you do like a little temperature gauge at the top? And it changes colors as we move through the process. Everyone processes information differently. Some are visual, some are oral, some can read and understand it. So that, I think the consortium could spend a ton of time trying to make sure every single person understood everything, but it still wouldn't be effective. And there is a fine line of providing information that's easily digestible, but also people taking the responsibility to digest it. And if they won't do that, there's giving them more isn't gonna help.
Well, I think, just put my 2 cents worth in and dealing with the public and watching it happen too. There's always, I've had people, they hold town halls and they go, well, wasn't very many people here. I said, yeah, but the opinion people are here because those people come and they formulate opinions and maybe 4 people or 5 come to them and go, okay, tell me what's going on, see? So I think a lot of information is passed around that way too, that they get their information from the one person who does study everything and does look at it, so, it's not the same. All the people aren't gonna learn their information the exact same way.
And you're given an opportunity. That's key.
And the
You're
people
getting
that
an
are,
opportunity
yeah.
to communicate, to spend time on it, to be there. You don't want to, you don't have to, but that opportunity is
Right.
what,
Right.
it should be about, right?
Right.
And
So-
whether it's, I know all the answers, or Isabel does, or someone on the advice, doesn't matter. The point is that we're there's people that are working on this and trying to help solve it. Goes a long way just to be participating, right?
Okay, anything further on that, Matt?
No, if the board's all right with that, we will
Anybody
proceed
else
with it.
Any more questions or comments on that? So,
Is there a reason not to have the community meetings on Zoom? Other
Well-
than, I know you had it in the Boardman library, which,
Yeah, because what we do is part of the meeting is a data walk. So during the middle of the meeting, they stop and they go around and they look at posters. Then I mean, so it's just much more of a, town hall kind of workshop than a
I think
formal
we
sit-down
can
meeting. You could,
maybe think about that in future meetings.
yeah.
Okay.
If we, I mean, there's value to it. It's great to have a recording of it and everything. Yeah, but we just haven't used that.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay,
I would recommend though, that I could, that the advisory committee know about these meetings, because again, I didn't know about tomorrow's meeting, maybe it was in the pamphlet and I didn't read all. But how do we really make sure that people know about these meetings? And then, the other part is that, is there something to put in the North, or the Gazette or something that talks about having a meeting and so that other people know that it's going on, that there's a,
does anybody do Facebook advertising?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it
Yeah,
yet.
well, you've seen it. You just don't know it.
Oh,
You can target 97818
oh, I got you. Yeah, with an ad or
Put an ad in
something.
there.
Yeah,
Spanish.
that would be
You
nice.
can put it in there in English,
Yeah,
and it's not that expensive.
but I just, on my Facebook feed, I haven't seen anything on that. So,
Well, it hasn't been there, but I mean, an
Yeah.
ad is, it
Nice.
comes to your feed, whether you want it or not.
heck,
So
do it.
I would suggest looking into that. I mean, every time you get a meeting a week or two before,
Yeah.
it's not that expensive. You just
Yeah.
make, and Facebook will help you make up the ad. In fact, that's one of the one things I did with the translation. I thought of something like, what do you want the community to know? Translated back, came out exactly the same, the short message, just short,
Yeah. Oh,
English,
I love
Spanish.
it. I
And the
I
cost
think
isn't that high, you could shoot it out there and,
think it's valuable to get more information out, that things are working, that people, this consortium's doing something.
Well,
that
yeah,
there's
you get it
actually a
out to the
meeting,
whole-
yeah, whether you wanna come or not, doesn't matter, but there's progress.
And part of it is, while we've announced it in county, and the previous consortium meetings, the main advertising has been specifically targeted to those communities.
Yeah,
Because we won't really want to talk to them about the solution. So
Yeah.
like I said, while we're not turning people away, it's, targeted mailings, targeted door to door. And, by the second time at door to door, they're like, we know it's on the 15th. It's like, oh, good, we'll see you there. Yes, you will. Okay, good. We're getting the message out.
Yeah.
So,
very good,
yeah.
thank you.
okay, anything else? On D, okay, E, consideration of managing director's job description. That's you again, right? Pat?
Okay, yeah, so, from the last meeting, I put together a managing director, job position description. As we talked about possibly getting a full-time position, to cover this, especially with the monies that are becoming available. As developing the budget and wanting to discuss this, I mean, right now we have $2,010,000 in the consortium coffers that are committed. We have additional monies that are coming out, and that doesn't include the $2.85 million that will be coming through for the project. And so as we look at that, developing this position description, in hopes of pulling in a full-time person or a contracted person to help best coordinate and concentrate on the needs of the consortium is there. As I developed this, I kind of borrowed off of some other special district job descriptions, as well as pulling from section 4.2.2 of our IGA, which had several of the managing director positions descriptions in there. And so wanted to provide this to the board as a template for this and to see if there's any feedback on this. If we are looking to do it, looking at a comparable district with a broadband consortium, I think it was between $80,000 and $90,000 was set for that. I was thinking more between 60 and 80 because if we got an engineering group that could wanna come do that and take care of it and bill it on an hourly or whatnot, that's a possibility as well. But this is something that, was developed as a job description for a possible posting. And so I was wondering if there's any questions, clarifications, that the board would like.
Thank you for doing this. I have like some wordsmithing.
Mhm.
I think it's great. It's thorough. I think you've hit all the points. And Debbie, if you didn't have a chance to look at it, community engagement and, outreaches would be that person. So I mean, this is in addition to Matt's other words. So
Facebook stuff or whatever.
yeah, however they want to. So I think that's really, I think it's right along the same track. I don't think we need my word for word rewording of things, but I don't know that there's anything that you've missed.
I had one there, is Nick considered a consultant or is he contractor?
Same.
We can both.
I just wanted to make sure it's clear in there that, because we talked about some things where you would be working with the manager. I wanna make sure you hire a manager that they know that they're gonna work, and the advisor.
Oh, yeah, and this, I don't think this specified the advisory committee much. It
No.
did talk about working
Well, I
with
could-
consultants.
yeah. Well, as long as Nick's covered under the consultant.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Would they be taking away some of the duties that you're?
Yes.
That's
the idea.
Yeah, unfortunately, we all, that.
And, I kind of relayed that, I really like what the consortium's doing. I think we're getting ahead of steam behind us. But also, my primary duties with the county, we need someone who can shepherd it a little bit closer. Particularly if we get into legislative lobbying and needing to be down at Salem more. I mean, personally, I think I need to be a little bit more down there on behalf of the county. But there will be efforts, that I think this managing director will need to be, which, with my full-time, my day job, it would be a disadvantage to the consortium to have me to them.
So is there other people that are taking some of the, like what's the woman's name that does the minutes and the agendas and,
Valerie?
yeah, would they be taking on some of what she's doing?
I would still say the county is supporting the managing director and the consortium in many ways. And so for now, we're planning to be here. Instead of sitting here, I'd be sitting over there by Aaron or Brandon and chirping in as well. Valerie, we've still expressed interest in supporting. Or maybe I'll just take over that job.
I know being on the broadband, we have Nick Green. It depends on who the person is, because he works on his own. If you don't have somebody that's ready to work on their own.
Yeah.
It's not good, Cause then you have to have somebody watching and tell them what to do, but Nick. It would have never happened without somebody like him, because. We have a boy who's got day jobs, including that, and so.
So Matt, where are we with this? I mean, other than maybe some wordsmithing, are we ready or are you looking to us to say, yeah, let's go forth and recruit and post that position? And would they then, they'd have an employment contract with the consortium, correct?
Contract.
That's what we're looking.
Either a person
Mhm.
or a firm. It could be an individual or it could be a firm that might bid a set amount per.
And so what I would do is I'd look to do, if this is all right, I would proceed to create a job posting / RFP and send it out to interested firms and get it posted on some websites, Indeed and other things to have people who would be interested. The salary, like I said, that's kind of my next step with the publicity and the outreach. We have $120,000 of revolving annual revenue. While we have 1.9 additional revenue in there, that's we need to consider how much of a portion of that we want to put towards operating and, expenses. Because the 120 is not gonna do it if we look into a lobbyist or we look into, social media, someone to push that, plus, you know, community outreach of a certain amount, and we already have $125,000 kind of set for up to $125,000 for grant and, engineering. So those items add up. And so as we look at that, it's, you know, looking at this where anywhere, if you get a part-time person he comes in to take care of things, you know, you'd be looking at, you know, 60 to $80,000. And then they'd be coordinating the engineers and that. Once we get the engineers going, of course, they could be, covered by project costs. But all the feasibility stuff, that's gonna come out of our base fees and not out of grants or other items there.
I think we can get all this for 60 to 80K a year.
Well, like I said,
If you
the,
hired a firm.
I mean, just the overhead of a firm, I mean, maybe,
Mhm.
Would Ronan be able to give us any clues on that?
who's on the phone, you might wanna bid on it, I mean, he's got,
Yeah,
he's like, sure we can. Yeah. As long as I have additional service billed otherwise.
yeah, right. Yeah. Change orders.
I have talked with a couple people that we could have do this, whether they meet the mark and everything would be up to the board as we interview them. More or less people in kind of a retired, ready to go to kind of part-time retirement kind of setup. Would be their situation, so they've got years of experience, and kind of want to step back from the day-to-day stuff. It's like those people who come and are crazy to be county administrators for an interim basis, you know?
yeah.
That's
So-
a really good point. I mean, like, because I think about it, I'm, you know, I wanna help you guys, but at the same time, it would be kind of a big commitment to take a huge chunk out of my time, week after week after week. You know, this would become something that forces out everything else that I do, right? And how long does it last? You know, so that would be something that I think, where if you have someone where they're not dropping other things to take this on and they're building on to something and it's you know, they're used to that public management role. I think that might be the right sort of person.
But the other thing I would recommend too, as I've seen, is try to get somebody at least in the region that knows this region. And if you could, yeah, and somebody from Seattle comes in and goes, okay, I wanna bid on this, I think that's gonna work for Portland myself.
Yeah, I think somebody from Morrow or Umatilla County, really.
Yes,
One of these.
yes, exactly. Understands the culture, understands what's going on, yeah.
But especially when you're talking about going to Salem. You don't want somebody from Seattle coming down to go to Salem to speak on behalf of you guys. You want somebody who can say, I grew up here, I live here, you know, this is my area.
Yeah.
My thoughts.
So. Tamara, do you wanna have Tamara's markup
Sure.
sent to him and then you can bring it back? You
Mhm.
wanna bring it back?
Well, I don't know.
Was there
that
anything
it's
else?
substantive.
Was there anything else anybody wanted to see in this agreement? If there is, I guess you could think about it and send it to them before our next meeting, and does that sound reasonable? Yeah,
Sure thing.
okay,
Sorry, I don't know that my comments are substantive enough to slow the process down. If Matt's looking for us to authorize at least that, you know, to make some minor changes to the job description or the scope of work. So it can be, either an individual or a firm that presents a proposal. Cause I think that process takes a while to go through, and probably Matt, would be happy to hand some of that over off. One of the other pieces that might not be here is that we do have, whoever interviews for this, we do have a person on contract to help with grant writing and financing. We also have the technical firm, so that person doesn't necessarily need that technical expertise. Maybe a little bit of that might broaden the scope of folks who might be interested in this.
okay, then maybe we're ready to have him move forward with it. unless there's some,
I think we need to set a salary, so something we need to do.
Either a salary or not to exceed amount that we might. Well, how are you gonna post it? Because like the Oregon Business Journal, you could say, here's a managing director, either in, either a full-time employee or work of a firm. So it's really an RFP for a firm or an application for an individual, but an individual could submit the RFP. So maybe you want to just present it as because they'll be a contractor to the CWC, not an employee. So maybe it should be, instead of the title, managing director, it's managing director services. Because it will be a contract, not an FTE.
I'd like to talk to Ronan.
That's probably not
Are you still with us?
Oh, yeah.
I am.
Can we pick your brain? Have you seen a situation like this before? And you're familiar with this group. You've been with us and you know. What do you think might be and you might want to bid or go for it, or what's your feeling on a contract price range?
I mean, if you're thinking like
You want to give it, I don't know, you might not want to give it.
I don't know about the depends a little bit on the total scope, I suppose. And if you're thinking, if you're thinking sort of comparable to county staff, and it's county staff of like half FTE just for this level of effort, then you can kind of think of it that way. In terms of like the contract value, I guess, or the budget that you put in there is think about the responsibilities of this role, and if you had somebody internal to the county staff, what FTE level would that be? And that's a good guide for what budget you might want to look at for this. So, if you got somebody who's half FTE, probably looking at 75, 80,000, something like that. And then if it's less than that, because you could divvying up the responsibilities maybe with some internal staff, then that's a different, you can kind of price it that way, I would say. Some of the factors you guys have been talking about in terms of somebody local, somebody who knows the issues and the people out there, I think is going to be important, because it's going to be a lot of legwork interfacing with residents and stakeholders and things. So that's going to be important, just as much as the sort of the experience and skills with some of the lobbying. So you're gonna have to find somebody with a pretty broad experience, but also a lot of on the ground and local direct knowledge.
Okay, thank you for that.
Matt, time have you been spending to think how much?
Well, not as much as I'd like. I mean, as we look at this, particularly as we go from the feasibility study to, the next steps on West Glen, I conceivably, you could spend 15, 20 hours a week working on this and getting ready for exploring, working with Nick and that, and as we get more projects and more of this funding coming, that'll only be reinforced quite a bit. I mean, right now, I'm able to put, about 5-6 hours a week into the job. Easily, I could probably go 10, 12. And as we take the next steps with West Glen and with other projects and some of these other things that we're gonna be exploring, it's gonna go up to be a part-time position very easily.
So is it legal, Lisa, to put in your RFP a range?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then
Absolutely.
when we interview the person. we can
Depending on
kind of-
services and qualifications.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I like the 60 to 80.
I'm happy to help with the RFP too. I mean, because you can set the scoring criteria, and that's really where all these different facets that are important, right? Are they bilingual? Do they live around here? Like, are they experienced with administering a public entity in any way? Because you're not gonna get everybody that it's all the criteria and will take $60,000, right? The more qualified they are, the more they're gonna want. And I think that can be a part of the proposal is, this I think a certain number of hours is fair if it's a salary, if it's a not to exceed amount where, cause I think there will be some ebb and flow. It's gonna get real busy sometimes not much will be happening. And then suddenly there'll be a project on the ground and, you know, are they expected to manage all of the West Glen project? Or is that just the engineering project manager and then they're facilitating between that project and this board and just kind of providing updates? Because
Yeah.
just managing one project, a construction project could be 10 hours a week,
Mhm.
just that.
And-
That's why I think that contracting's the way to go, because you will start, I mean, your goal would be 10 to 12 hours a week right now.
And so,
That's not gonna take $60,000.
So you're saying that they just don't do it hourly? Is that what you're saying?
I think you could do it in a request for proposals
And just see what comes up,
and see what comes out.
because I think it definitely
Hope
has
that
to
you
be
get
a
someone that can grow
a
their
contractor.
hours.
Yeah, I don't think it should
Yeah.
be an employee of anybody before the county. They need to answer this board. But that's the way I'd like to go, is just like you would any contract. When you put out a contract for other services, you just say, tell us what you want to pay, right? Or not what you want to pay, what you want. Cause I envision, I'm not, said somebody might be retired or somebody retired, but I envision somebody who does other projects like this. Has, maybe not like this, but has other kind of things, or is retired. Maybe not wanting to be their full-time gig, you know, cause I don't think, I know Nick Green knows the consulting business. And broadband is just one of the ones he does. He's done a heck of a good job for us. I mean, he's taken us through kind of, you know, all the way from concept, all the way up to engineering, you know, and it wasn't his fault that the whole thing fell apart. It was, you know, anyway. But he got us to, clear up to engineering the outlay for broadband and doing everything. And he even held the minutes, or he knows the open meetings law, because he was the city manager, John Day. He knows the open meetings law. He kept us on the straight and narrow there. He knows budgeting and all those things. And so, and he took the minutes, but he used AI to take the minutes.
I think he also bills $250 an hour. I think he also bills about $250 an hour.
I'd have to look and see, but I'm just saying, maybe that's the kind of guy, it might be him, or let them determine what they want to bid on it, you know?
Let's see what we get. And if we don't get anybody who bids on it for that amount, then we'll have to come back
We
to
can
us.
always contact them, right?
Well, once you start that formal RFP process, you need to make it transparent. So we just need to evaluate that we expect that would be within the range of 60 to 80,000.
You can send it to people and you can, once the RFP's out, you can send it directly to however many.
So RFP or RFQ? What do you think?
RFP, because if you do an RFQ, then you still have to do like a.
The
price
RFP
proposal.
letter, yeah.
Just a 2-layer thing. I think you kind of just put it out and see what happens. You may not even get the kind of person you're looking for. You may get the person you're looking for and he wants $120,000 a year or $200,000 a year. I do think the budget will impact at the 60 to 80 range, the sort of candidate that you get. It is gonna need to be somebody who doesn't already have a full-time business. It's gonna need to be someone who can add, who needs, you know, half of a week of work to do. And someone who's gonna be on it every single week. Like there's some months I could do it, right? I'm just kind of thinking through how I would structure it, but there's gonna be some months that this wouldn't be my priority, and that's not the kind of person you want. You know, do you want this to always be first on their list?
You know, you're self-motivated when you have, you know, a value system that I'm gonna do, you know, from what I've had working with you. So that's the kind of person you need. You need somebody that's gonna work without doing a big supervision, you know?
Yeah.
Because who's gonna supervise them, you know?
Well, I thought about that supervisory question. It's kind of us, isn't it?
It is, but that's the tough part, see, we all have our deals, you know? So you're reminding them and nagging them to get their deal done, you know?
We'll have to
So-
have like regular check-ins to make sure.
Yeah, that, you can do that, but you still, somebody has to be designated to do that,
Sure.
but.
Now Matt's got 2 or 3 hours a week back in there.
Designate Matt to keep track of our.
There you go.
manager.
I mean, it is just to throw it out there, now that you fully decided on this, would it be worth it for the county to hire someone and the consortium pay the county to have another staff person that
I
does
don't
this?
think, I
Okay.
think they should
I
work
just
for
had
the
that.
consultant. Yeah, I thought a lot about that. I don't think it should be a staff person, like I said, of either the port or the county. I think they need to report to this group and this group only, you know? Especially moving into the thick of it now, you know, and it's hard for Matt to gauge how much, you know, the time wise, because we haven't hit the deep end yet, you know, we still in kind of the shallow end, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Right, you know, I mean, we're getting there, but.
And yet, at the same time, we've gotten a lot of money coming in, a lot of things, a lot of expectations. We need to make sure we hit the landing early so we can continue that success as we go forward. And
Oh,
so,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. No, that's why this position is so important to get it right, to me.
Well, I like the job description, if we can just figure out.
We have to massage it a little bit to make it a.
so what we'll do is,
So you don't think it's quite ready?
Nick,
Do you want?
Nick?
Well, I
if
think
you,
Matt can figure out
if
how
you
to
and I
do
can
that.
work on it, Tamara, if you wanna add to stuff and we'll bounce it off Lisa before we, finalize an RFP.
Okay.
And, does the board wanna see the RFP before we bring it back? Or are you okay with us issuing it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take a look at it, and I have some organizations and businesses, I think. See if they're interested, if they are, great, if they aren't, that's okay too.
I think you guys have enough experience with contracting and consultants to handle it. I wouldn't need to look it over myself. I think you can, and plus you got a good idea.
I
of-
agree.
Okay,
Yeah,
I could be a second set of eyes if you think you want to, otherwise I'll hand it on.
and then just go for it. So do we want to make somebody make a motion to that effect?
I will make a motion that we move forward on the project description as a request for proposals. With minor tweaking between Tamara and Matt on language, just to make sure that the document fits the platform that we're looking for now.
Okay, do I hear a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Okay.
I still don't understand the dollar figure, they're just like
Okay.
them.
The last item,
But
no,
they're
no, last
they're-
item,
they're saying
last business item,
Yeah.
consideration of publicity and community outreach efforts.
Okay, this is just touching on what we talked about last time with possibly having social media and also with resolving West Glen having the importance of community outreach. As we look at the operational budget, $120,000 from the port and the county. That gets eaten up very quickly as I was throwing together a budget. We're looking at more of around 3 to 350 for a budget just to run this thing on an annual basis, which means we need to pull in monies from some of this one-time monies to pay for operating expenses. And so that's something before I come and give it to Kevin to give final look and blessing before our next meeting. I just wanted to see if that's all right, particularly in light of us engineering grant, $125,000 there, $80,000 here. That's easily $200,000 just for 3 parties there. And so wanted to, I mean, we talk about lobbyists and these other things. $60,000 from port and county doesn't cover it. And so as we look at a budget, we need to pull from these one-time monies and that until these grants come in, which will help us pay part of administrative costs.
Any of the monies that we have in there that. Do they allow for administrative costs? what fundings are in there, I mean,
That's not even our money, is counted right now.
No, that's not the SCP money.
And if we don't start spending it, it's not gonna be there.
So, I mean, if the SCP is available for that,
then I think it did say.
I would imagine so, but I'd have to look at that. I would think so.
So good.
One thing I would like to attempt, before we just automatically dip into what we have is, I would like to put together some of these discretionary funds and make up a little mini budget of what we need. And I have a couple of private business or entities I'd like to approach about, okay, we need you to fund this. Let's see what they say. I'd like to try that, but have a specific list of this is what we're gonna do and this is what we have a budget. Will you fund it? You know, that's what I'd like to try. Cause I know there's at least one that I would like to approach.
And I think just to add to that, other entities or businesses, et cetera, don't like to say, yeah, here's X number of dollars for administration. They like projects, so.
Yes,
So if you fund this piece or you fund the grant writer, that is probably a better opportunity, so. I do think that there are some entities who really want to support us before we get to that lobbying piece and the earmark.
The
So,
CREZ dollars are open. So we just some of those.
those are the ones I was looking to pull
I think
from.
that's fabulous, yeah, yeah.
Good.
That
Mhm.
distribution didn't specify for capital.
Okay.
One of the things we do with Project Path is, over in Umatilla, because they have private funders who fund them too. Is just a little one pager with, here's what we're doing, here's what's going on. Here's a little section of all the different projects that we're trying to get funded. We'd like $5,000 for Facebook ads. We'd like $10,000 to have a video made by a professional videographer. And just give them a little list and say, hey, if you're interested in supporting us, here's some of the things that are about, like Tamara said, some projects. But they're not big projects, they're little projects, right?
do you have one of those in your computer?
An example from Project Path.
Yeah, a mini, I'd like to see that. Because I think a lot of is the pitch, what you call the pitch,
So we just.
is, you know,
Yeah.
don't
It's
go,
kind of the elevator pitch,
huh?
the kind of the elevator pitch,
Yeah.
right? Just something that's, they can see it all in 5 minutes and.
Exactly, don't get so far into the weeds that they start yawning.
So Matt, do you need a motion to, you want to adjust the budget?
So I'm developing the budget right now. Just wanted to let you all know, I need to tap into those monies unless we identify other sources. So the budget I'm preparing right now, we'll plan on that.
Okay,
And if we change things, and I can work with the chair on this, just to identify if I mean, sometimes you can slot that money and you pull from the CREZ monies if we don't get the other
Yeah,
money.
no,
So,
no.
we can
Understood.
plan that way, and that way then, Dave and I and Kevin can have a budget ready for you at the next meeting.
I think I like it. I'm fine with spending the CREZ dollars for.
And I will,
Oh, I'm too, don't get me wrong, I'm fine with it, I just think that I've watched over time where if you go to certain organizations, both private and government, and you have a plan, it works better than give me money. You know, you say, okay, here's what we want you to fund, just like he said, you know, they're more apt to buy into that than just, we need money to operate and do this and that, you know. So I'd like to just give it a shot, but I'm not against, believe me, I'm not, that's the purpose of discretionary CREZ money, is for exactly what, but if the opportunity is there to tap, especially, I don't know, and you said you might have some ideas?
I have ideas for people who might want to put in for the support, this position.
Yeah, which would be part of the mini, that we could develop a mini presentation and say, okay, we want to fund this position. Would you help us?
Oh, I see. what you mean.
See, do you have any ideas on that line from the private sector?
Yeah,
My day job, I'm in the regulatory business, so it's always awkward for me to say, hey.
No, I'm not asking you to go do it, I'm asking you to send me the names.
Yes, I will.
Because
Yeah.
I envision me and Matt going and talking to these people, right?
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and you and I.
We'd go along with it,
Yeah.
and we'd
you bet.
sit down with them,
Mhm,
and we'd put a little presentation with our mini sales sheet,
mhm.
and then you never know unless you ask,
That's right.
you know.
Sure.
And then maybe they go, maybe they don't, you
Mhm.
know, but we need the names of, cause you've been up tight with them, groups and seen things happen, and
I'll share a couple names with you.
Yeah. Nick, if you want to share.
So I found the sheet, do you want me to join the Zoom and share it so everybody can see it? Matt?
Or just share it later.
Send it to you later. Okay. I'll just.
Okay. So, you
if I could-
leaving, Timer?
Make a comment.
Am I ready to leave?
I'm ready to leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair.
Yeah.
I would encourage a review of the CREZ distribution layers because they actually do specify for capital infrastructure projects. So I'm not sure that could legitimately be used on operating expenses.
Okay,
I don't know that we specified those dollars in those radios for that.
It's in the letter, so.
It's evidently not in the minutes, but it is in the letter. Cause I pulled from the minutes, not the letter.
so we need to go back to the well with the rest.
I don't know, but we're going to have a CREZ meeting, well.
Maybe that could
CREZ
just be a
meeting.
clarification that the CREZ board makes too.
That was Chris too.
Chris,
So CREZ 3,
Oh,
No, we did 3 too,
oh, yeah, it was.
out of the 5 million, first
Okay.
5 million.
Chris 2 and Chris 3 are gonna have,
and CREZ 2 says for clean water infrastructure projects. The CREZ 3 distribution
Well, that's,
was assist with the cost of capital improvements.
okay, we're gonna have a joint Chris 2 and Chris 3. Meeting
the
soon.
first one I could see, and I might have moved that version.
We're gonna have a joint Chris 2 and Chris 3 meeting soon. Is this some,
Is it the 4 and 500,000?
Yes.
Do you know what the $1 million
All of
is?
this in support of capital projects.
Of the million.
I mean, whatever I just wanted to point it out, whatever the board, so
We
500,000,
talked about the 4 and the 5.
there's a 500,000 was from CREZ 3 through
That was
the Amazon
first one.
Community Development Contribution, that's the CDC. And the CREZ 2 was the $400,000.
And we did a
And then
million.
there's
No, we
CREZ
didn't.
2 for the $1 million
These was the two that I.
with the
Sure.
community service funds.
Fast.
Which
Maybe-
community service funds might be the ticket then, without changing things, I'll see what I can do to pull that up.
We can go back and make clarifications to that too. Although I don't wanna just use all this money up on staffing. We do need to get pipes in the ground
Yes.
or make well improvements. We've got to get to that point.
This is definitely a step in the right, this is really good work.
Yeah.
This epic here is really.
I agree, I second that. Thank you. Okay, we'll just get on with, any other, the publicity and community outreach efforts, with that. Was that what we were talking about?
Yeah.
No, okay. Managing direct, okay, you
And
guys.
I pretty much extinguished the managing director report with the other discussion.
Yeah, as long as there was anything left to pass over there, okay. Public comment, anybody, anywhere? Okay. Any other thing to come before the group? If not, it's all adjourned.
Lost it.
Our audience.